Hey, there we go. All right. Welcome, you guys, to the Dr. G Show. Today we are on episode 89, so we're getting pretty close to that 100th episode. And looks like a little dark or something. All right. I gotta get the lighting figured out in here. So, episode 89, and then we're talking about fasting. And hey, Newman, how you doing? I'm glad you guys are joining. Make sure that you guys share this with your friends and family. And hey, Carrie, how you doing? And as we go through this, feel free to post questions. We're going to be talking about fasting today. So not going fast, but actually being slow to do a fast. And we'll explain that. I want to know as we go this, I'm going to ask you guys some questions too. But how many of you guys have done a fast already? So even if this show you're watching in the recorded version later, feel free to respond, and I'll answer questions too. But how many of you guys have ever done a fast? So like some people do intermittent fasting. In high school, I had a lot of friends that were Muslim, so I did Ramadan fasting with them. Although it's basically just during daylight. Otherwise, you eat a bunch at night. So sometimes you just overeat. So it's not quite the same thing, maybe. So there's spiritual fasts. There's Christian fasts. We do that too. There's sometimes people pick certain foods that they are not going to eat anymore. Some people go on a candy fast or a junk food fast. So lots of different options. So today I'm going to do something. I like the interactiveness. Oh, so Marcia said that she does intermittent fasting weekly. And that's a great thing too. Short-term fasting tends to not have a lot of benefit, but intermittent fasting that's continued, that's like a part of a ritual or part of like our thing, then that actually becomes more beneficial. And we'll talk about some research as we go through this. So Marcia, and you guys don't see this later, but she's on the screen as we are going through this. But why do you do that? So why do you fast? And why do you guys think people fast? We'll talk about some reasons. And really they hit kind of two categories. One is vanity. Think of like juice fasts. The other one is spiritual fasts. And then probably the other category is probably health. And that's where it gets a little sketchy, trying to make sure that when you're fasting, it's actually healthy and not dangerous, not harmful. You're not causing a yo-yo effect. You're not just going to cause more problems than benefit. So during this week, from now to the next episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 7-day water-only fast. And every day I'm going to probably do a little video live feed for you guys, or maybe a recorded one, and just kind of talk about what I'm going through. Okay, so Marcia, she said that she had fatty liver and it resolved, right? So that makes sense and that seems plausible. So that's a good idea. And most people get fatty liver from high fructose corn syrup, agave, but mostly dietary stuff. It used to be like horrible things, but now it's just American lifestyle. So this week, no food, no juice, no crap, nothing. So what's pretty interesting is if you guys have been following the show for quite a while, we've been doing almost 90 shows. Hey Jan, good to see you here. Thanks for joining. And sometimes I take you guys on some journeys with me. If you guys remember, almost a year ago, I decided to stop cheating on my diet and do what I tell patients to do. And so for almost a year now, I've had no fast food. I don't eat junk food. I try not to eat any candy at all. None of that stuff. And about 99.9% of the time, I've been really good. So, and I've kids, and so, I might take them places. I'm not eating there. I'm not doing this. I'm not, so they might be able to do things that I can't do, or I might go out with friends and I can't do what they do. So, hey, thanks, Jeff. Glad to have you on. He said, keep up the good work, or great work. Great work. So, for a year, I got to figure out what I need to do to celebrate. But I remember that first few days, it was a very big struggle. It was just like, you're changing habits, you're changing kind of food addictions, and really what you're doing is changing coping. So in America, what we do is we cope with food, or we distract with games and TV and whatever, nonsense. And so several years ago, about 10 years ago, I did a 7-day water fast. And back then I was teaching anatomy and physiology, and I had a private practice, and there was 2 other doctors in the clinic, and they both did a 7-day fast too. And I thought, well, if those jerks can do it, I can do it, right? So I did it. But I didn't do it for the right reasons. Not whatsoever. I did it really not for vanity, just for maybe bragging rights. And this time, it's going to be very different. So this time, it's been a slow kind of process of, although I ate salad and some rosemary fries today at Public, but other than that, it's been a slow kind of progression of really eating kind of oatmeal for kind of breakfast and dinner, and just taking things a little bit easier, and then starting the fast. So I kind of knew I was doing this, although it's getting pretty real pretty fast, right? And so then as I go through this, then when I come out, this time, I'll actually start out slow, and we'll talk about how we want to do that. Now, last time, my congratulations meal was on the border. So I went from fantastic, I felt amazing, like it was just awesome, to all of a sudden I just was miserable. That was a terrible decision. And I had lots of people tell me the right things to do, but I'm a guy, so can't make guys do anything. So this time I'm doing it right. So again, that's one of the nice things about having the show, is kind of taking you along with me, and me being the guinea pig for you guys. So let's talk about why we fast. So, oh, hey Rhonda, how you doing? So we already had one person say that they fasted to help reduce that and eliminate the fatty liver disease, right? The non-alcoholic fatty liver disease that we are seeing so much of these days. So some people, and especially those on Facebook, I bet you guys have seen an article that goes around, every week or something, and it says you can reset your immune system in 3 days. So that's a question I get a lot of from patients, is that true? And so it's from a study, from University of Southern California. There's another one too. But basically it said that longer periods of fasting, 2 to 4 days, can reboot the immune system. And what it does is, as your immune system is, or as you're, fasting, your body's all about conservation of energy. And so it's always going to kind of down-regulate as much as possible. That's why people end up with yo-yo diets, end up fatter than they started. And so as your immune cells are kind of have these longevities to them, they start amping those out, or sorry, not amping those out, chopping those out, or pruning those out. So very quickly we kind of get rid of a lot of our old immune system, and we kind of replenish that with a newer immune system. So clearing out the old, regenerating the new. And so that's where that study comes from. Have you guys seen that? So now I don't have immune problems. I don't get really sick very often ever anymore. But that'll be kind of nice, right? Kill off all those T memory cells and B memory cells that we talk about with food sensitivities. Hey Carolyn, how you doing? Glad that you guys are joining. Please feel free to share it and like it, and ask questions. And also, if you've done a fast, tell us what you did and why, if you want to. So we talked about the difference between health and vanity fasts, right? So the health reasons a lot of times is for the immune system. There's also you look at like the longevity diet or the 80-20 diet, where studies, and there was one that came out today that showed that people that reduce calories actually live longer and healthier. So the medical news today, back in 2004, they suggested periodic fasting. So that, again, the intermittent fasting, that basically 1 day of water only, maybe one time a week, reduces diabetes and other chronic diseases pretty significantly. So imagine that, diabetes being reversed by not eating a bunch of crap at least 1 day. And again, that's type 2 diabetes, which is reversible. Then you have, burning calories, but not for vanity, but for health. America, we have more obese Americans than overweight Americans, but we don't want to do fasting for weight loss. We want to do fasting for other purposes and have weight loss as a natural benefit. And what's interesting is the first 3 days of fasting, you burn up your glycogen storage. So glycogen is kind of like stored sugar. And then you'll burn that up in about 24 hours of fasting. So by tomorrow this time, no more stored sugar for me. Then you end up burning off fatty acids, and then free fatty acids and free amino acids. So you burn sugar first, then some amino acids and fatty acids. Again, not that you're not burning protein, but you're building all these free floating ones that are floating around the body. And when people do that, they tend to actually feel kind of worse in the very beginning. So about day 1 to day 3, it's usually a lot of like feeling like you're depriving yourself. But after day 3, you feel amazing, absolutely amazing. And there's a couple reasons why. Is one, you are no longer, it's the 3 days to get things out of your body, basically. So after day 3, you're kind of detoxed, and you're starting to burn fat, which then puts you at a ketogenic state, which then suppresses hunger. And so your first 3 days, you are just like fighting hunger, you're fantasizing about food, you're craving hard. Now, sometimes people do dopa mucuna or mucuna perennis, velvet bean. That suppresses the hunger part, which we'll see how this goes. Last time I didn't use that. But maybe, I got to see patients through this, so we'll see. I remember last time I did this 10 years ago, I was like putting my head down on my desk, just like dying the first couple of days, just like conserve my energy. And then I'd like, hey, how's it going, Mr. Johnson? And see my patients. So with that, the way that we burn is sometimes people will say you're burning protein if you fast, right? But that's at the long end of it. Like, that is where people die. Hey, Joshua said he did an 8-day water fast twice with amazing results. All right, that's bullcrap. Okay, I'm like gonna do a 7-day fast, and you gotta show up with an 8-day fast. All right, that's we're making this 9 days. 9 days. No, 8 days. No, okay, so I would do 9 days, but we have to do 7 days because that way it correlates with the next show, so we can talk about it. So normally I do, 20 days. It's not a big deal. That's awesome. So, no, that's very good. And then Marcia says, what is that? Suppresses hunger. Is that an herb? So, no, when you start burning fat, and fat becomes the new energy for the brain, then the brain no longer sends signals to say, hey, we're hungry. So that's ketogenesis. Now, in diabetics, they're going to die. In healthy people, that's just kind of slows things down mentally. So your brain, with the help of B1 or thiamine, runs off of free sugars. So sugar is a very important part of brain function, which is why we eat fruits and vegetables full of sugar, but not sugar as much as possible. Because now we have as of 2010, we have type 3 diabetes, which is brain diabetes. And so then we end up with insensitivity in the brain to sugar to break down. So you have brain function. So it creates like an Alzheimerism, dementia, loss of senility, all that kind of stuff. Oh, okay. So Marcia said, what was the thing that I said we could use? So one of the things is Dopa Mucuna, and it is actually a high source of L-Dopa. Sometimes it's called Mucuna perennis, and it's through velvet bean typically, and it's just a little capsule, and people take it. When I triple dosed it just when I tested out for patients first years ago, and it basically decreases appetite for it raises L-dopamine, which then crosses the blood-brain barrier and becomes dopamine, which is cravings. So we crave to raise dopamine to feel dope, right? And so then this raises dopamine naturally, so then you don't crave things. So then it's easier to do this kind of stuff. Kim had a great question. Can you do it while taking chemo? So sometimes during our shows we have questions that get a little bit risky to answer, kind of just in general. But I will tell you, some of the studies that I looked at today in preparation for this, it was for chemo. And so they were doing this on chemo patients to help reboost their immune system, all that. So in general, I would say yes, but anybody that's doing any kind of long fasting needs to make sure that they're doing it with the supervision of a physician. So natural medicine doc like me or someone else like me. Because there are some risks, and we'll talk about those too. And really, anything longer than 3 days, you really need some hand-holding through that process. So Brianna says, how is fatty liver diagnosed? Well, what they do is they put a catheter through your eye, just through the center, so it doesn't mess anything up. And then that goes back through... Oh, no, they just do a sono on your liver, or liver enzymes. Usually if liver enzymes are really high and they think hepatitis, they do a sono, and then they go, wow, your liver's really fat. And then you go, excuse me, are you calling my liver fat? And then you start calling them names and push over the ultrasound cart. I mean, normal stuff. So usually it's by sono, secondary to high liver enzymes. And probably a GGT to make sure it's a liver and not a bone or something else. Had a really interesting patient this last week that had really high liver enzymes, but their GGT was normal. And their primary doc was suspecting liver, but it's not liver. So that kind of eliminates that. So we reduce disease, we rebuild our immune system, we basically kind of rejuvenate, kind of burn off everything and restart. Detoxification, most things are detoxed through the body pretty fast. So if you ever watch like Man vs. Wild, if you come across a dead animal that's fresh, you eat its liver and its eyes. That's what they do on the show. So I got my middle daughter to eat eyeballs with me from a fish just to see. But they weren't raw. They were cooked. So, and she'll never do it again. And I'm not sure I will. Although they have fish eye soup. Be like bubble tea, I think. All right, so what were we talking about? Make sure you guys talk about if you've done a fast. So, detoxifying, right? So, eating the liver. And so, the liver is mostly always clean because anytime we're eating stuff, we're breathing stuff, we're rubbing stuff on our skin, it's all toxic. So, we process it through the liver. It pumps through for about 400 liters an hour, I believe. And so, you're constantly cleansing the body. And then that gets packaged out so you can poop it out. You also sweat out toxins, and then you pee out the extra toxins, and some you breathe out, right? So the body has all these mechanisms to get rid of it, to constantly detoxify your body. But there's some things, if you're dehydrated, you're not going to pee as much or poop as much or sweat as much. So how the hell is it going to get rid of these toxins? And so theoretically, it puts it in places where, it's going to cause the least damage, which is fat. So as someone starts to lose fat, there's that idea that you might end up with a little bit of like Herxheimer's, a little bit more toxic. And so you want to make sure that you're flushing the body with tons of water as you're doing a fast. You also want to prevent dehydration because a big chunk of water intake is actually through food. So, real food, not fried food and cooked food that's dehydrated. Hey Trudy, how you doing? So Trudy has a good question. Does it help for adrenal fatigue or fibromyalgia? And yeah, it's interesting that by day, it's extended helps, but again, these are just general things that we're doing. So do it under healthcare provider, but for a longer fast. But I'm telling you, by day 4, the last time I did this, I felt fantastic. And so I can't remember, Joshua, whoever did the 8-day fast, how many days did you feel miserable before you felt fantastic? And then Rhonda says, can you work out and are you too tired? So that's a great question. And that really plays a big part. So, when I first did this, I didn't do it right. I didn't do it for the right reasons. Anything. So one of the things is a lot of times people live this kind of like mi vida loca kind of life. It's just crazy and it's just it's incompatible with life and longevity, and we're just doing too much and we're stressing, and it's just like, I'll just do this one thing to solve everything. America, right? But if you fast for a long period of time, you really want to make sure you do it correctly. The whole goal is not just to not eat, but to change things, right? So during that time, so I will continue walking. I don't think I'll be jogging this week, but we'll see. Maybe by day 3 I'll start jogging. But I'll probably still walk. So I get some air, I get some sunlight, and I get some exercise, but it's very gentle. You don't want to do anything extreme or overdo it when you're fasting, because you'll end up often causing more problems than benefit. The other thing is like stress and getting enough sleep. So you can't just fast and not get enough sleep. You're going to end up worse. So you want to make sure, and that's what I'm going to do during this time. I'll do my little video diaries, but I want to make sure that I get plenty of sleep, that I'm not trying to burn the candle at both ends, that I'm drinking plenty of water. So Rhonda said, are you just drinking water? Well, this is vodka, but eventually water. Wait, vodka is water. Or water's in vodka. Is vodka food? All right. So that's the other thing is this week. So I like my martini and make food. I usually make my little gimlet, post pictures. But there will be no alcohol this week, because you know how it is when you drink without any food on your tummy, which is great, because if you go, you skip dinner, then go get martinis, and then don't eat, right? And then you'll get kind of instead of 2 or 3 martinis, you only need 1 martini. Cost effective. It's a Mennonite drinking thing. Maybe a Mennonite drinking game. So, well, thank you, Ron. So, same thing. I want to make sure I get enough sleep, enough air, enough movement, that I de-stress. So part of the de-stressing process is I need to make sure during this week that I meditate every day. Now, usually I meditate maybe once a week. And I go to a meditation group and we meditate 20 minutes twice. And then we listen to Scott Spradlin, usually kind of enlighten us, and then sometimes make jokes and all that kind of stuff. So it's very relaxing, and I learn stuff. So this week I want to make sure that I meditate every day, maybe twice a day, and then also do yoga. But like you guys seen me post that video of me doing yoga, that just Tim sits about yoga, I'll probably do very gentle, slow yoga, because I want to relax. I'm not trying to get stronger. I'm not trying to, achieve something greater. I'm just trying to create movement. So, and that's one of the, a lot of times people do fasting is basically for that mental and physical well-being. So you think like Gandhi. And it's really interesting because at a certain level, I think it's day 3, day 2, you end up making endorphins. And endorphins are your feel-good hormones. And so you have this really interesting thing that happens is you have that kind of ketogenesis suppress your hunger, so you're no longer suffering, and then you have the endorphins that are jacked up, and all of a sudden you feel great. And it was very interesting. Even I'm doing it the wrong way before, I noticed by day 3 I felt so even. Like before, back in those days, 10 years ago, man, I was just like burn the candle at both ends, do a bunch of coffee, crash, do a bunch of wheat and dairy, crash, just like every patient. And then I would put on my jacket and my little scrubs, and I would talk to patients and tell them what's the right thing to do. And I'm not doing it. So now I'm doing all this stuff. So I'm trying to be, these days, just transparent, make sure that I do what I tell my patients to do. So I walk the same journey, and I have that kind of integrity, and say, look, if I can do it, you can do it. But, oh my gosh, day 3, I was just so even. Like nothing rattled me. Life was just kind of easy going. I noticed, like with my kids, I was so much more patient, so much more easygoing. Same thing, with friends and patients and stuff. It was very interesting to feel like that. And you would think, just like when we kind of transitions people's lives with the lifestyle, that they're like, I feel normal, I feel great. But sometimes they go back to the old ways because that's our comfort. There's always trauma, and then we go back to the old things that didn't work in the first place. And so sometimes people need like a little tune-up or reboot with that. One of the things, and please post your questions as you have them, is to talk about the risks. So I'm pretty good health. I'm pretty active and pretty healthy overall. I don't eat fast food, and I mostly just eat fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and berries, and mostly raw because it's simple. Lots of water. I don't do green tea anymore, but I like herbal teas, that kind of thing. Hey, Gina's here. Thank you, Gina, for joining us. Even though you're late. Got a hall pass? So what are the risks? What did you miss? Everything. Okay. So risk-wise. So Rhonda has one of the first questions that I didn't put on for the risk is, what if you're on meds? That means you need to do this under supervision. Now, intermittent fasting probably won't matter. But, when certain meds are designed for certain amounts of acid to break them down, to get certain certain effects, and certain parts of digestion, certain enzymes. But when you fast, that all changes. So a lot of times you just kind of make very little acid. But even like fantasizing about food, you can then make too much acid, and then you can cause a little bit of problems sometimes with that. But if you're on medications, you gotta work with your doc on that, and just say, hey, look, I'm gonna do a fast, and it'll depend on how long you do the fast, for what you need to really do with that. So I know that's not a very good answer. That's I want to keep my license answer. Oh yeah. So you said birth control. You don't need birth control when you're fasting, because the first 3 days nobody's going to want to be with you, so there's no chance of getting pregnant during that time. But after day 3, maybe. So I don't think that would cause much of a problem at all. So now antidepressants or acid reflux meds, those might cause a problem. Probably the biggest risk of fasting is dehydration. So most people or most Americans are already kind of subclinical dehydration. So that's why women tend to get shorter between 40 and 60. They'll shrink up 2 to 4 inches. And 2 to 4 inches is just dehydration. The bones aren't shrinking, but all the fluid spaces are shrinking. And what that means is that they're just being dehydrated over time, and after 40 years of that, they start to actually shrink. I'm distracted. Ron says, hope I'm not pregnant. Jeez. Well, yeah. And then Carrie says, how do you break the fast? So we'll talk about that towards the end, Carrie. We'll talk about how I did it wrong, and then we'll talk about how you do it right. Yeah. So Gina says she needs a timer to drink more water. Don't we all? But that's where like some people even put like times. They'll put little markers on their cups or their bottles to actually then know that this time I need to have this much drinking done. So dehydration then. So we already have people shrinking 2 to 4 inches after years and years of subclinical dehydration. So if somebody stops eating food, then they will stop getting enough water because there's this. The rule is half your body weight in ounces of water, right? But grandparents weren't carrying around water bottles, and what happened was you actually get a lot of water from your food because fruits and vegetables are 80% water. The average American only eats 1 fruit or vegetable a day, usually fried, so there's no water. So, hey, and let me go down. Can I go down? There we go. Carrie McDowell, pretty sure it's Dr. McDowell. She said there's actually an app for the water too, so that's pretty cool. There's actually an app for the meditation. There's an app for the water. You can do it. So, so dehydration, and most people are drinking coffee and they're drinking black tea, which are all diuretics. So when we do a fast, we want to make sure that we are drinking not only enough water, but a lot of extra water. So that formula of half your body weight in ounces without food truly is half your body weight in ounces of water, but probably a lot more. So again, after day 3, you're starting that ketogenic part, you're starting to burn fat, better be flushing stuff out. Pee, poop, sweat, and breathe it out. It all requires moisture. The other risk is increased stress. So again, we don't want to do this during the most stressful times that we have. We want to do this when we can kind of be calm and relaxed. There's also some people get interrupted sleep because of epinephrine. So again, that's because they're stressful and they're trying to do something that's even more stressful. So that's where the focus of making sure that when you do fasting, that it's a positive thing. There's even those camps that you go to or resorts where basically they take care of everything and you just chill. That's great. I make Kansas money, so there's none of that going to happen. And then headaches, usually from dehydration, but also from hunger and stuff too. That's again where like dopamine and mecanoperenins kind of can be very beneficial with that. Brianna has a great question, and I thought about this today too. And if you aren't eating, will you stop pooping? So, the average cycle, there's what's called the oral anal reflex. So food in, food out, food in, right? So we should have 3 bowel movements for every 3 large meals that we eat a day. So if we eat 3 meals, we should have 3 bowel movements. But if you pick kind of just, snack and kind of peckish, yeah, you might have 1 or 2 and that's normal. But typically the way you figure that out is through a thing called corn test. You shouldn't eat corn. Don't eat genetically modified corn. But if you get some organic corn, preferably like frozen corn, then eat about a can of it or a bag of it or, a big handful of it. And corn is the same when it comes out. In fact, you probably don't know this, but you can actually just poop in a strainer, just rinse it a little bit, boil it, kill off the bacteria, and you can eat that corn again. Don't do that. That's not true. There is that coffee bean that those cats eat, and then they poop it out, and then people charge like $60 for the bag of pooped out coffee beans. Any of you guys ever had that? That seems like a great idea. You can actually eat bear poop though, because bears don't fully digest everything when they poop, so you can go and eat that. I saw that on Man vs. Wild too. Haven't tried that one. So, where were we? Why were we doing headaches? How the hell did we get there? Brianna's question. Poop question. All right. So the average bowel time should be about 9 to 12 hours. That's where we're going with all this. So 9 to 12 hour transit time. So that's when the corn should come out. So the longest we ever had was 16 days. Now we had longer, but it never came out. So we're not sure what happened. So about 16 days was the longest, which means there's 48 meals inside that person. They had lots of stomach problems. So imagine that, 48 meals from here to down there. Otherwise, if I don't eat, basically I might have just a day or two of flushing stuff out, and then really shouldn't be a whole lot of anything at that point if you do water only. So I'll probably save on toilet paper, which is saving the planet. I'm doing my part, people. Doing my part. Then at the end, we should do a corn test and see, and then we could do a video, a live feed on that. So then heartburn, which, you shouldn't have it. But sometimes if people fantasize about food, they might overproduce, and so that muscle at the top, the lower esophageal sphincter, it might relax a little bit because there's not a lot going on. And then that extra fantasy of food, like the Pavlov's dog or Pavlovian dog kind of reaction, where if you think about food, you smell food, taste food, talk about food, you actually start making enzymes and making stomach acid, and then that might be too much. I like Marsha's comment, little in, little out. So that's the non-gross version of what I said. Now, binge eating, because again, if you don't do this right, it is not for weight loss. It is not for vanity. You want to do this for the right reasons. When it comes to weight loss in America, there's three main truths. And this is true since 1950 to about 2010 when they did the documentary Fat. But the Harvard professor said that there's three main truths to weight loss in the United States. One, that the vast majority of the people that try a weight loss program will not stick with the weight loss program. Most people will fail. And so that's where binge eating comes in with fasting, because it's just, I'm just not going to eat. And then I'm like hungry as hell. And then I eat a whole bunch. And that causes more problems. So the other truth is that the majority of people that stick with a weight loss program will not actually lose any weight. Then the third one, which is the most important one, is that the vast majority of those people that stick with a weight loss program, and it didn't matter which one, it didn't matter whether you're doing the cookie diet or the juice diet or the ketogenic diet or the paleo diet or whatever you're doing, Jenny Craig, if you're not sustaining this, then the majority of people that stuck with it would lose an average of 40 pounds. All right, woohoo! Oh, wait. And then they would gain 50% plus the amount that they lost back. So they'd gain about 60 pounds within 6 months. Because what they did was starving themselves or changing basically all those diets do is change caloric content. So if you're stressed and your needs still really high, then your body starts to try to conserve and you eat differently. And so you lose 40 pounds. And then you go back to doing what you're doing, and now you're eating this much like you used to, but your caloric need is this much, and then you just gain a whole bunch of weight. So most people won't continue because it's hard. We don't like hard things. This is America. And then the majority will not lose any weight, and then the majority who lose weight will gain that plus 50% back within 6 months. So it's a big failure. The whole documentary is like, well, it's too complicated, we can't figure it out, right? Well, except every other country can figure this out. So we don't want to do this for vanity, because you will gain more weight back. If you quit fasting, whether it's a 1 day or a 3 day or a 5 day or 7 day or 8 day, which Braggalicious was all trying to one up me, then you'll just gain all that weight back. You will yo-yo, just like any of those gimmicky diets. In most diets, you'll lose 10 pounds within the first day or two, but that's water weight. And so people get all excited, but it is really just water weight. What you really want to lose is inflammatory weight. That's the best. But that's after 3 days. So if you do it for vanity, you'll probably end up binge eating and gaining more weight back. So you just yo-yo. Now, a lot of times people have this myth and I used to teach, anatomy and physiology. So we'd always cover this because it's just ridiculous. So they say if you fast, you will eat your muscles. So don't do that. You're going to eat your muscles. Why would the body eat the muscles before sugar, free amino acids, free fatty acids, and fat? That's not how it works. So the very first thing, like we said, is you burn the free stuff. Then you burn the fat. And once you're completely burned all that fat, then you will digest muscle. But only then. So you don't have to worry about that. If you're scrawny and you're fasting for very long, you might have some problems. But even I think the fairly skinny Irish during the IRA whole movement, I think they last 45 days to 75 days. I mean, they still did pretty good. But what happens is it starts eating heart muscle too. So it eats skeletal muscle, heart muscle, and at that point, that autophagy basically, you'll end up with the heart failure. So that's one of the biggest risks. But that's a really profound risk. That's not a 3-day fast or 7-day fast. That's people who do it too long, or if they're too scrawny, they might have problems with that. Otherwise, if you're American, you got plenty of buffer room. So I think the average, is 20, 30 pounds or something like that. But really, you don't want to do it for that. You want to do it for the benefit. The other risk is kind of the symptomatology risk. And I'll tell you what, those first 3 days, unassisted, I think after this I might go get some printed because I don't want to suffer here. But those first 3 days, you have low energy because the body's trying to conserve. So it's just look, I'm gonna make you suck until you eat some food. And then mood swings, which is awesome, and dizziness, nausea, weakness. But make sure you're drinking lots of water. Also, I'll probably take some either B vitamins or maybe a really healthy multivitamin, non-toxic one, just to make sure that I'm getting some nutrition because I am American. Otherwise, I've been super healthy for the last year, so should be okay. But again, you want to do the most benefit with the least amount of risk, so there's no problem with that. And then for a lot of people, it increases stress, so it kind of makes things worse. So that raises epinephrine, which then is fight or flight, and then things start getting real dicey. They start having fluctuations with blood sugar, and you don't want to do that. Now, the body has sometimes people oh, you're going to die, right? But the body has something called gluconeogenesis through the liver, and so it literally makes blood sugar from scratch. So you always have this redundant backup system if you fast, that's how you end up with this kind of even, sustainable, feel good, no highs, no lows after that day 3. And then types of fast. So some of you guys have already talked about some of the stuff that you've done. Who else has done some fasts? And what kind did you do and why? And so probably the easiest one to do is 1 day a week fasting, intermittent fasting, but really doing it for the right reasons. Why? Are you doing it to lose weight? Because it's not going to work. The vast majority of those who do that, there's this other study, and it didn't help. They didn't lose any weight, right? Your body just kind of yo-yos a little bit, but you're fine. It probably shouldn't make you gain weight if you do it once a week. But what's interesting is that people that do it for the right reason, like a spiritual fast or something, tend to do far better on that. They're not going to lose weight, but they feel better doing that. And then there's a 2-day, a 3-day fast. Those, again, are harder. Good. If you're going to do 2-3 days, you might as well do 7 because you're just doing the suffering part. And there's water only, but some people do a fruit fast. So, some people, they talk about they did a fast, but they did a fruit fast or a vegetable fast or a greens fast or something. Now, I'm doing just water only, but that's just my preference for this kind of demonstration to show. In fact, someone, now I don't know this guy at all, but who told me about this? Oh, wait. Laura Gilmore, that's who told me. So on Facebook, she posted this. So Laura, thanks for this. She recommended Dr. Jason, I think Fung, he has some videos about fasting, so I don't know what he says. I was going to try to watch those before this, but I didn't get a chance. So I did get caught up on my Netflix Better Call Saul, but I didn't have time to watch that. So that might be kind of interesting too. There's lots of really great books about fasting. You just want to kind of see why are they doing it. And then there's juice fasts, of course, and then there's like gimmick fasts. And the gimmick ones you want to stay away from completely. Like anything that's just radical or weird, just don't do those, right? And that's what, I grew up with two sisters and a mom, and they were always doing these crazy diets and fasts, and they never worked. And so you don't want to do those things. They'll all say you'll lose this much weight, but what happens? You gain that much back, plus 50% more. So, Doc was asking a question of what do you do when you're coming off the fast? And I'll tell you what you don't do. You don't do what I did last time, which was go eat it on the border. I felt so... I went from such a high to such a low. It was so terrible. I was like, I hate myself. Why would I do this to myself? But, you know, that's the American way, right? So going on in the fast, you really want to kind of slow things down, do some meditation, do some movement kind of stuff like yoga, but very gentle. I know the other day, which by the way, a lot of my patients, and you guys, at the yoga studio, and I'm sure there's lots of other places that do it, but I went to Zoe's Praska's gentle yoga. That's what a lot of my patients can do. That was awesome. There was a little bit of like, I could feel it, but otherwise it was very doable. But they also have chair yoga, so for those that are a little bit older, out of shape, or don't feel comfortable, that's a great class. And she said it was like mostly 70-year-olds. So hell yeah, go when you're 50. If you're like out of shape, you'll be like the best one there. You're like the young hottie. So that's awesome. Now, anybody else that, I know Christina does yoga and stuff, Duncan, like at, which is actually down the street, at ICT Flow Foundry, maybe? But any of you guys that know other kind of yoga, gentle stuff, post it. So Rhonda, you do yoga? So you got to post it. So let everybody know. So that way we have lots of different options for you guys. But especially ones that are gentle yoga, restorative yoga, those are what you want to do on there. So low impact kind of stuff. Walking, that stuff. So when you start, you want to kind of slow things down. You want to eat healthy. So I've been eating old-fashioned oats with just some... I just heat up my tea kettle and then put water in there with some raisins. And that's what I've been kind of mostly doing for breakfast and lunch. So you guys notice I haven't been posting my martini and meals. And that's because I've been mostly kind of prepping for this. And slow things down. Figure out how to slow your schedule down, slow your stress down, all those kind of things. So download your app for water. Download your app for meditation. Have your videos for your yoga, or go get your classes prepped. They use like $10, so that's not bad. And a lot of them are free the first time, so that's kind of cool. Which I spent $80 to go to yoga, and and I got free first class. So I was like, wait a minute here, but. I bet $80 on the clothes. Yeah, so I had to Nike it all out, so I don't know. I probably didn't have to do that. And then maybe doing like fruit smoothies. That'll decrease the amount of enzymes that you need to be making, which will be great, kind of slowing down that process. You're going to stop making a lot of enzymes through the pancreas, so you're going to let your pancreas rest, your liver rest, your gallbladder rest. So that's awesome. You're going to be flushing out those systems. And then when you slowly go on that fast, then do those for the right reason, and then as you restart, just do the opposite. So you want to probably start back on soups or bone broth or smoothies, things that don't take a whole lot of enzymes but have pretty good nutrition. There is a risk of refeeding trauma or refeeding that I think I saw that in a movie not too long ago, where basically people were starved and then they let them eat, and they would eat so much they would end up killing themselves. So they might get a huge electrolyte imbalance very quickly and then cause a bunch of problems. Which, when you drink during this, it takes like I think 2 liters in 2 minutes to disrupt your electrolytes, enough to kill you. But slow water intake. Slow water. Don't do a quart at a time, but just cup every hour or something like that, and that should be good for you. So intent makes all the difference, and again, this isn't dialectical thinking, as Scott Spradlin always says. Okay, Carolyn says, hey, we tried the bio coffee that Holly mentioned. It's awesome. That has nothing to do with meditation. So, yeah, I know lots of people are drinking that. And that probably shouldn't do that before the before the fasting. So, don't eat complex foods till later, But intent, so meditation, yoga, mindfulness, probably do more reading. And again, take it easy, put your feet out, get sleep, get sunshine, especially like time with your friends. Hang out with a bunch of extroverts, so they can do all the talking. You just kind of like do your breathing and take it easy. And then what you do during it is the same thing as kind of like why you're doing it. So some people maybe want to do vitamins and minerals with it, just as kind of like an insurance policy. Others might not. Some people might want to do a little bit of maybe cheating a little bit here and there, or again, the dialectical kind of thinking is you don't fail. So I remember last time I did the week-long fast, I was cooking dinner for everybody, and I was just like so proud of me. But I had that muscle thing of like taste the food, and I was like, crap. But again, that doesn't mean I failed. That just means, oops. All right, back on track. So. And then monitoring is very important too. So I'm going to try to do my blood pressure. I got my pulse oximetry. I got a little EKG, but I probably won't do that. Maybe spirometry. I don't know. But I want to keep a little food or a little log to kind of just see how things go. That risk of low blood pressure for somebody that has dehydration, that might be a problem. But again, this solution's simple. Drink a lot more water. And also mood. So I'm going to talk during the week, do little video things, but talk about it. And then cautions. Some of you guys might need medical kind of oversight if you do this. It's dangerous maybe if you're very young, because you really need a ton of extra nutrients and energy because everything's growing and developing. The very old, again, there might be some special needs that have to happen for that, or it may not be recommended. Serious illness, now some people do it when they're seriously ill, and if they do it way too long, there can be some really big problems with that. But again, under the kind of supervision of a doctor that knows what the hell they're doing, that actually might be okay. But again, if you're just kind of winging it, it's probably not a good idea. And then pregos. Pregos should not be doing this, because when you're pregnant, you have a high need for nutrition. And your goal is to maximize nutrition, not deny nutrition. So, and then, what else? Did I forget anything, you guys? Carolyn says that she could only do the fast if she could have her coffee. She says black coffee, but I mean probably black coffee. Do a coffee fast. That could be a thing. I made that coffee kombucha, and then they now make coffee kombucha. I think they stole my idea. So Rhonda says, what's too old? Well, seeing that I'm so young, anything over 40, they should they should just give up. So, too old's probably like, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 maybe. But again, really it's going to be, if you go with a doc that knows what they're doing, they can kind of help with that, deciding whether it's okay or not. Like my grandpa would not be a good one back when he was alive, because the dude was super scrawny. Like he does not have any extra fat to go very long. So maybe a 1 day a week fast would be fine, but not like a 3 day or 7 day or something like that. Probably for him. But hell, what, Gandhi fasted? That dude was skinny as could be. So, Jesus fasted 40 days. So, Americans, you know. Yeah. So, Rhonda, you're 62, 39 inside. That's how I feel. Like, I'm 45, but I feel like I'm 25 inside. Okay, so Carrie is just black coffee and sugar instead of tea? Is it just black coffee and sugar instead of tea? I don't know what you're talking about. What's up, Doc? I don't know what that means. You talking about the bio coffee? Or the kombucha? Oh, she's talking about the kombucha. Yeah. So the kombucha is, like when I did it, okay, so now I see what you're saying. The kombucha I did was coffee with SCOBY and a cup of organic cane sugar, and then let that ferment. So pretty sure they do the same thing with the, I think it's Synergy that makes the coffee kombucha. They make a chocolate kombucha too. So again, with cacao. So that might be interesting. Might be interesting to see how that tastes. I think they've only had it at Green Acres. I don't see it at Natural Grocers. So you guys will have to try that. I posted that the other day, a whole bunch of the new ones, and for you guys to figure out what you like and kind of give feedback to everyone else too. But if you tried coffee kombucha, not the stuff I made, because I was just winging it. It tasted fine, but I was winging it. But if you taste that coffee kombucha Synergy brand, or the other one's TS or something like that, let us know. Tell us what you think about that. So this is the end. Only water. Next week we'll catch up and see how I did, if I'm alive, and talk about fasting. Then we'll probably talk about some other stuff too. As we leave, feel free to post more questions. Please share this, like it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And this is episode 89, so we got to figure out very quickly what we're going to do for our 100th episode. We should have Holly back, so we have Dr. G and the boss back on board here. And she's been pretty busy as that corporate wellness director over at the YMCA. Some people get too big for us. So, and we also have our Wise-Minded Women event that's coming up. Probably, so we're going to try to do it in late April, but there was some stuff that happened that we had to attend to. So it might be like early May, that we have enough time. And again, it's a really awesome thing. We'll have some great speakers. We'll do some yoga, some meditation. I'll be doing a talk, although not the main ones because it's a women's thing. But we'll talk about stronger, healthier, happier women kind of topics. And it'll be a lot of fun. So I'll keep you guys posted on that as we go. We'll try to have the speakers on the show probably the few weeks before we do it, so that you guys can get an idea who everybody is. Most of them are more popular than me, so that's good. Good for everyone. All right, you guys. Holy crap. Holly Hajaj is now watching. And we just mentioned. So if you're watching, Holly, you got to book us for episode 100. So we'll do a reboot, do some old school stuff, maybe do the Halloween video again. That got us in so much trouble. Alright guys, thank you for attending the Dr. G show, and look forward to you guys' questions, comments, and wish me luck, and then also post your ideas on what you've done. I want to hear your successes. Share with everybody what you did as a fast and what you thought about it too. Yeah, see, there's Holly. Yeah, we're talking behind your back, but positive things. All right, you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week. And stay healthy and happy. And don't touch this button here.